Hello there. Well, I'm with my friend Prasad Thammineni. How are you, sir?
Hello, Kanan. Nice to meet you, sir.
Yes. Well, we met quite a while ago at a company I was helping uh, sell into the enterprise software called Gigster, and I was introduced to you by some other kind of technical experts and geniuses, and we talked about some projects together. But what I'd like to do is talk about your amazing company that you've got, Agent Man. But before we do that, why don't you give us a little background on kind of what brought you here?
Thank you. It's a good chatting with you, Kanan. And I'm so glad that we are doing this together. Um I think you and I can say we've been doing this for decades now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
right. So I think the part that connects it all for me is that I've seen five generations of technology, right?
Yeah.
Everything from Internet 1.0 to all the way to agentic AI and that we're working on currently. And through it all, everything that I have done is always uh, working at the cutting edge of technology and applying it to business problems at scale, right? Whether it's through my own companies, this is my sixth company, or working at companies, helping them go from zero to one product. So I'm a really good zero to one product builder in the sense that I can code, I can do product, I can do design, I can do marketing, all of that, as well as a business builder, right? So when you've done five startups, you can pretty much do everything.
Yeah.
About 2.5 years ago, I was at Atlassian doing a zero one product for them as a consultant. I spent 3 years building an internal marketing optimization platform to manage all their marketing spend. One of the that's where I got introduced to generative AI, where we were generating landing pages on the fly. Right, this is 2022.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, right, so if somebody goes searches on a keyword, we would, and we know which target customer that is, whether it is small business or enterprise customer, we would show a different product for them and a different landing page and a value prop, right? So you can imagine that that is cutting edge in 2022. And we saw great conversion. The second thing we did was over 3 years, we built an internal marketing analytics platform where anybody could quickly create marketing analytics across 10 channels, 38 countries, 16 products. It's a product-led growth company.
Interesting.
The challenge with that was the people that were using it were all marketing analysts. We always wanted the senior management to use it, right? The senior directors and the
Right.
market.
Yes.
And for them, they're not in the weeds figuring out which column is, how many impressions are there, what is the column in Facebook for the same metric as opposed to in Google, YouTube. So that challenge of not being able to be in that data weeds is always a challenge for them, and they would ask questions, and then an analyst would go build using our tools, build a report and share it with them.
Yeah, so let me jump in here because I think that it's excellent. What you said about your background, Prasad, is so you're really a born and bred entrepreneur. You know, you see when technology changes, you have to jump on what's the real changes and then see things go. And I saw that. I remember you took a short stint, I think, at Salesforce as a VP, but in my back of my mind, when I saw that, I said, it's not, it's just a matter of time for Prasad is out building again. And I'm the same way. So I've seen a lot of things come and go. I love the fact that you were on Gen AI even before LLMs kind of really took hold and kind of has really revamped every one of the business around. But you know, my journey has been the same way, and I'm completely bought in on agents here, and I want to spend a lot of time on that. But
Oh,
your career path recently from a frontier VP at AI at Salesforce to founding Agent Man, what specifically uh, got that? What was the aha moment that you saw that you had to democratize this for small businesses?
yeah. So to indulge me a little bit. So as I was saying, right? I was in fact getting to that point was how do we get senior directors who are not in the weeds of data answering questions for them on data, right? So that's when 2 years ago we built our first agent called
Oh,
the Copilot, right? Where people would ask questions
yeah,
in English and it would go retrieve the data and translate that and present it. Now, this is GPT 3.5, very brittle,
right.
right? Because the LangChain had just introduced the concept of an agent based on a paper called React. right?
Yeah.
And that blew my mind. I said, whoa, this just changes the entire paradigm of conversational AI, right? Entire paradigm of user experience, where people are asking something, and we didn't call them agents at that time. We call them co-pilots. They would just go do things and come back,
Right. Right.
right? So shortly after that, I left, and I had a great opportunity at a company called Rappi. Rappi's like Swiggy in India, or
Oh,
DoorDash over here, or
yeah.
Instacart, but for Latin America. They're a Y Combinator unicorn, $5 billion last valued.
Wow.
And they wanted me to come and automate their support. Now, if you remember 2 years ago, support was the best use case for agent
100%. Yeah.
AI,
Yeah.
generative AI. So I joined there, built out agents, built out a lot of generative AI capabilities, trained a lot of people, ran all of generative AI at Rappi with a 5,000 person company. And that's where I met my co-founder for Agent Man, by the way. And
Nice.
through that process, I learned one thing is that agents were hard to build,
Yes.
right? Frameworks like LangChain, now there are Crew AI, and there are 100 of these things.
Right.
Every day today, in fact, OpenAI introduced a new framework called OpenAI Agents, right? The
Yeah.
problem with all that, they are programmer first, developer first, code first. That means you have to go learn Python, you have to learn Agentic tool, you have to learn AI just to use it.
Yeah.
Leave all the things that come with it. That's first challenge. The second challenge is you build your agent, ship it, and 2 weeks later, your marketing guy comes to you, your support guy comes to you, your operations guy comes to you and says, look, I need to change that flow
Right.
because it's conversational. It is to do with this. And I need to change. And guess what? Another 2, 3 weeks, developer goes and does things and comes back. Right? And we
Mm.
had 140 flows that we had automated. Imagine the nature of that.
Right. Right.
So that's where I started to look at a lot of research papers and came up with a natural language, an English language way of building an agent, and started to test it at the beginning of last year in January, February with friends. And I saw great promise. And that's when, I left Rappi to build Agent Man.
I love it. So you kind of took off on a couple very big tidal waves. The last one being this no code kind of a non-technical person can kind of build agents. I love that insight that you just point out. I'd love to hear your take on MCP and how that's working for people in terms of building agents. But you've also got another very cutting edge business model where you talk about being the app store for AI agents. So talk about the marketplace and the ecosystem and how does that differ from other AI platforms? Now, what are the unique challenges when you're building agents with business users?
I think the state of where we are with agents and AI is that they're probably, like I think I said this before, is there are 50,000 people who can write agents,
Okay.
right? That compared to the 30 million developers in the world, build,
Right.
right? Now, the 30 million builders do not include the Shopify store owner who can spin up a store in five
Yes.
minutes.
Yeah.
Right? If you add those people, right, there are a lot of those people, and the future is going to be more and more who would want to build stuff for themselves who are not programmers.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about all those no code, quote unquote, engineers that want to build things, the challenge is agents are here, the promise is amazing, the opportunity is huge, but only 50,000 people can do it.
Yeah.
Right? So all the tools are been built for them. And the challenge is, so what do companies do? They go hire consulting firms. Now
Right.
they hire startups, and the startups come and do consulting work for them because every agent you build for a large company is special and
Yes.
is proprietary. So you have to go build. And so for every dollar in agentic technology, they're selling six, seven, $8 in consulting.
Yes.
And that process, they're training people, etc. Right? So that's the biggest challenge we are in. We are technology is here, but people skill sets are here, and there's a huge gap between what to make it happen.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, you said a couple things that were really interesting. The other thing is it sounds like you found your beachhead, which is e-commerce. You mentioned Shopify, and we've been in amazement about how they've, automated and allowed business shop owners to kind of customize their storefront. Why do you think that sector is so receptive to agentic AI? And what are the early success patterns that you're seeing?
I think there are a number of factors, right? So one of them is there are about 5 million Shopify stores,
Yeah.
right? And another 5 million on WooCommerce, BigCommerce. They all tend to use the same platform. That means, and the level of customization is only limited to the user interface or the design of the website and branding and some marketing, etc., right? That's it. Now, in terms of the actual data, they don't customize a whole lot. No, they do to a certain extent, but it's still accessible using the same APIs.
Yes.
So what do agents need? APIs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you have standard APIs, you
Yeah.
can build once and install in 1,000 stores.
It's a set of very well-defined objects that's
Object,
manipulating.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's the same advantage Salesforce to has to a certain extent because they have well-defined objects in the Salesforce cloud,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can do it, and in some way they're better position. But in the e-commerce space is the case. There's a second variable. Small businesses don't customize things in general.
Right.
But beyond Shopify, let's say they go by Gorgeous or Klaviyo, they use it out of the box.
Yes.
But they don't have engineers, they don't have IT in-house.
Right.
So for them, they're looking for, look, I want to build agents. I don't know how to do it. You build it for us, we will install it in no time.
Yeah.
And that's where the agent store comes in,
I
where
got
we have pre-built agents for different workflows within Shopify and more in the future. And people can sample it, try it out. In fact, if you go to agentman.ai, you can actually test an agent right now, right? There is nobody, you don't have to sign up a form or sign up thing, etc. You can try it out. You can try out a Shopify agent right there or a sales agent and experience what it's like, and then say, okay, I would like to install it.
Yeah.
Deploy.
That's another thing that I think that you're ahead of the curve on, Prasad, and kudos to you and your co-founder, which is product-led growth. This is what people want right now. They don't want to interface with a sales force. You know, there was a big, Doge is getting all the headlines. There was this big expose where they sold 38,000 ServiceNow licenses and there was two users or something. And so we're seeing that whole, they call it the Salesforce industrial, the sales industrial complex for off software, and you're coming around that. So I love that. But before we go to what you're doing with PLG, which I think is great, you mentioned use horizontal use cases, and you're right. When ChatGPT first started coming out and getting out, I immediately said, "There goes 3 million support level
Right.
one support jobs," because the level of NLP was just next level in terms of understanding every nuanced meaning, every misspelled word, every mispronounced word, etc. Talk about the kind of we talk about for e-commerce, we talk about sales, support, and operations. Which which do you think has the most ROI for businesses? And was that what you thought? Was that your initial expectations?
I think it's a great question. One of the biggest challenges we found at Rappi was, and I see this across every company, is that when new technology comes in, the people want people to different parts of the company to try on their own, right? It's organically bottom up strategy. But whenever a transformative technology like generative AI comes along, when you do a bottom up thinking, the bottom up only results in incremental improvements, either in the top line or the bottom line, revenue or profits. So we started at the end of my stay there looking at a top-down approach to it. In fact, we went and got the P&L statement, monthly P&L, looked at all the big opportunities where we're spending the most money,
Interesting.
identify workflows there, what is happening, and whether there you can make it agentic or not. And then start to build out those things because
Yeah.
that's the same playbook of efficiency, but with agents, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about Shopify or any company, there are two places. Either you cut costs or generate revenue,
Right.
right? So in the Shopify world, support is a cost, right? So it's like, look, it's not good. It generates some value, but it's not immediate, right? It's like if you have a great customer satisfaction, you will probably come back.
Yes.
Immediate, if you're able to do that in an agency using agents, then the customer will be able to get immediate response. They don't have to wait 24 hours. They can
Yeah.
so. But support is not a big factor for a lot of verticals within Shopify. So
Okay.
it's important. I'll give you an example. If you go buy furniture, support is not a big deal,
Right.
right? How
Right.
many times you bought a desk online and then support and
Yeah.
how do I, oh, of course, if you have to assemble the desk, maybe you'll ask a question.
Yeah.
But support could be a problem in fashion, high fashion.
Yeah.
Where high fashion, especially women's high fashion, 50% returns.
Yeah.
Right? Support becomes an issue there, right? Because sometimes people don't return after 60 days, after the trial, right? So depending on the vertical, support becomes so small or too big.
Yeah.
Uh, for a common factor among all these people is people want to generate sales.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? They're spending a lot of money on marketing, especially those who have brand presence in Shopify store, not driving, through other channels. Let's say they advertise on Google, on Facebook, they're driving all the traffic. They land on the product page, and then they want to sell more, the
Right.
cross sell and the upsell part of it. Now that's the part where Shopify is where pages where you're hard coding a lot of things. Now imagine an agent knows what ad you clicked, what kind of pages you've looked at, the signals, picking it up, and then tailoring and saying, "Hey, can I help you with something?" And then say, "Okay, here it is." And the agent doesn't have to be in the corner of a page. It can be anywhere in the flow of shopping.
Sure. Sure.
Right. So that is where we are seeing a lot of excitement around cross sell and upsell.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. A lot of times, the user experience of an agent is through a chat bot. You've blended it into the flow more seamlessly. That makes it use. I love it, Prasad. There's a lot of great insights that you've picked up in building your product. Um, when we always talk about AI adoption, and I've been doing AI adoption, generative AI, way before the LLMs came out, and it was always about enterprises, right? We always because the big guys had to have a team of experts and they had to everything. Um, let's talk a little bit more about what does it mean to I've heard you say before that enterprise AI is overpriced and SMBs are going to leapfrog enterprises and AI adoption because of no code solution and PLG type of sales processes. Talk a little bit more about that.
So there are multiple variables, right? You and I have seen this playbook before, right? Usually when new technology comes, it's the leading enterprises that jump on it and adopt it, and they're hiring $500 an hour consultants to go build it, right? So last year, people were charging $500,000 for just to implement their first MVP, right? These are the Accentures and the Bains and so on. And you had seen multi and hundreds of millions of dollars in bookings from these guys.
Yeah.
And then the mid-size or the smaller solution integrators were charging 50 to 100,000 for simple prototypes. Now, what they're doing is they would go write it in code in Python and so on and do it. And nobody was satisfied with the results because it takes long, it costs money, and it was never a ROI approach to things. They would always say, "Hey, this is a nice little thing, let's go build it." Right? So the challenge was from zero to value would be weeks or months.
Yes.
By the time people are frustrated and saying, "Look, I hear all these things about people, it's amazing. Klarna is able to cut all these costs, etc. How come we are not?"
Yes.
Right? So this is the challenge. And then they'll go hire a more pricier consulting firm. It's the same story, right?
Yeah.
So Sierra is famously known for charging hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are others, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
The challenge is that it's all code first. With no code agents, you can get from zero to value within an hour,
Wow.
right? So
That
that means that value, even though it may be small, you still are seeing it happen
right.
phase. You can change course of direction. You can then iterate over it and get to more substantial value within days to weeks as opposed to weeks to months, right?
Yeah.
So now the people that will benefit the most are SMBs, right? For a good reason.
Yeah.
Small to medium-sized businesses do not customize much. So that means an agent can operate out of the box to a large extent across multiple companies very quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas once you go to enterprise, there's so many custom implementations of the same software stack,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
Salesforce at HP would be very different from Salesforce, let's say at Broadcom.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
Right? So you have to spend a lot of time implementing it there and so on. So it becomes a solution as opposed to be a product.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, yeah, there's no question we're on the verge of something that's going to be formative in the industry. Some people are predicting that agents are going to take over the SaaS space in particular. Now, one thing that we know is that the SaaS space has always had a clunky pricing model. We start off with per seats. Then Snowflake and others went to per consumption, and then people had no visibility. Neither of them really work. How are agents going to change the way people are thinking about this? And why are we? I believe we're at a real paradigm shift in how people start accepting and paying for software.
Yeah, and I think I like to predict here, right? About 50% of SaaS companies will disappear in 5 years.
Wow.
And so, and there's a logical reason to get there, right? So think about it, like 7,000 SaaS applications according to Zapier.
Yeah.
On average, enterprise uses 300 SaaS apps, and a mid-sized company over 150, right?
Yeah.
And they're all selling you
Yeah.
seat licenses, and their entire business model is based on seat licenses. So if you look at all the enterprise software companies, they're adding agents on top of their seat licenses. So
Yeah.
the question, I just bought 100 user license last year, 2 years ago, and I have 70 people using it. Now you come and sell me agents and saying I can replace 30 of those people. Why do I need this additional 50 licenses?
Yeah.
Right? So, and then the second, that's one way you're gonna reduce SaaS companies, right? Demand for SaaS software. The second pro is agents for the first time can cross-cut across functional areas, right?
Yes.
What I mean by this is if you go back 50, 60 years, when industrialization in the office space started, people started restructuring companies like accounting department, sales department, marketing department. And today, when you go to Comcast, they'll say, press one for sales, press two for this, right?
Yeah. 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 That's right.
Is Comcast selling me their organizational structure?
Yeah.
They should, I just buy Comcast from the Xfinity from them. All I need is before, during, and after the entire customer life cycle. I just want to speak to one group.
Right.
You need to keep bumping around in the phone line.
Yeah.
And that's how software has been built.
Yeah.
A sales app, you have a marketing app, you have a finance app, and so on. Companies like Salesforce try to build all this together, sell you a suite, but you're still paying individually.
Yeah.
End customer is still interacting with individual parts of that software. Whereas agents for the first time can connect all of it
Yeah.
and can deliver what is a customer agent.
Absolutely.
Right?
And
When you build
he's solving your problem, not your sales problem.
exactly, right? So when you start delivering customer agents, employee agents, vendor agents, regardless of what systems you have in place,
Yeah.
then you're replacing the SaaS application layer with an agentic layer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you don't need the SaaS apps, you just need the backends.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. And it's been wonderful hearing you. Prasad, you're a true visionary and a technological leader in terms of how you're putting your company together and the trends that you've seen. Since you talked about all the companies you founded, let's talk because a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the counterintuitive lessons about entrepreneurship that has served you as you built, particularly this company in the agentic space.
Yeah. So you will hear people say, "Hey, look, you got to focus on a niche,
Yeah.
right? You find your ideal customer profile, right?" Yeah, and a lot of people ask me that question. So is e-commerce your ideal customer profile,
Yeah.
right? So now there are times where it makes sense to do an ICP,
Yeah.
right? So in a mature technology space or in a mature environment, you should obviously go and find your ICP, right? So if I was building a CRM, I would go look for an ICP,
Yeah.
right? But in a space where you're building agents, AI, etc., there are no ICPs there because there's not enough of the customers who understand what the technology is and what the promise is, right? So you can't just pick a vertical and bet everything and 6 months later realize that vertical is not delivering, right? So I get that questions a lot from investors who tend to read the YC playbook. Uh,
Yeah.
the idea of, oh, ICP, what's your ICP? Tell me, why aren't you focusing on one? And I tell people, look, we're too early in the technology, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just pick one customer. You got to pick few,
Yeah.
right? You may go deep into one to build out vertical AI, which is really important. And while all the while trying out two or three others, because you don't know which one's going to work out,
Yeah.
right? Which ones are going to quickly grow because nobody yet knows. Now, e-commerce is definitely a great promise, but what about my second, third, and fourth, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, wait, no, I love that you said that. I do actually I'm kind of guilty. I spend a lot of time as a consulting helping people find their niche and finding out how to spend their time. And you're absolutely right. It does matter when you're building very complicated workflows. So you understand, when you're dealing with finance, the timeliness of data is so important. When you're dealing with healthcare, the privacy of data is so important. And so you have different choices to make. But at a broad level, the agents are a level above that in terms of the problems that they're trying to solve. That's awesome. Okay, let me get you to put your visionary hat back on, Prasad. If we look ahead 5 years, um, where do we see agentic AI becoming, and specialized by vertical or more generalized, like you just mentioned? And how is that 5 year vision shaping kind of what you're doing with your product roadmap at Agent Man?
So I'm going to answer that in two parts, right? The first part was, I think, April of 2024. There was an event that Sequoia organized called Sequoia Ascent. Okay.
Okay.
And their keynote was there was one slide, which is what I call as a $1 billion slide, which said, how can agents run a company? Right? And obviously what they did is they took an org structure and they said at the bottom you'll have sales support agents, you'll have sales agents, you have marketing agents, and so on. There'll be supervisor agents, and you build up over time. There's a one person, $1 billion company. You probably heard that phrase, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's how you build out. Now, when I was at Salesforce, we did an intellectual exercise for on Mark's asking, where can you build an agent first enterprise company? And we found that especially in the enterprise space, it's very hard because you can build it as a solution, but not as a product.
Yeah.
Every SaaS implementation, every database implementation is very different from enterprise to enterprise. But what I see 5 years from now is SMBs will start running their businesses through agents, at least half of it.
Interesting.
And I have a customer who came to me 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, and said, Prasad, I want to run half of our company at least with agents. And she's somebody I've known for a long time. She's built a phenomenal brand online, multi-million-dollar brand. And she said, I would love to build it. And I've known you for a long time, and you're always, encouraging us, let's make it happen together. So I've been waiting for that person to
Yeah.
build the idea of agent first company. And she doesn't want to just infuse agents in customer support. She's in e-commerce, right? She's in customer support or in cross sell, but in marketing,
Yeah.
in operations, in merchandising, in financial planning, etc. All parts of her business where she can run the entire company with the help of agents, and then going and doing on their own stuff or augmenting you at various times or working with customers and suppliers and so on. So that's what I believe. In 5 years from now, you will see more and more small businesses running a big part of the business through agents.
That's excellent. Prasad, it's been so amazing catching up with you. A lot of great insights here, and let's stay in close touch.
Yes. Thank you, Anand. I enjoyed talking to you, and it's phenomenal.